Hey everybody, and welcome to another video. This week I thought we would discuss something that I feel like a lot of us artists come up against every now and again, and that is that our drawings or paintings or whatever the case may be might look a little bland, a little lifeless. So today I thought I would talk about some techniques that I use to kind of liven up my sketches and my drawings and make them more expressive, more exciting. And the first technique is honestly, just because I know this is something that affects me, is kind of getting out of your own head about it. You can't be worried about making a mistake or what the final thing is going to look like. You kind of just have to be present in that moment. So just go in with no concern about any mistakes or doing something incorrectly, because a lot of that is just going to stiffen you up and it'll show in your final piece. The second tip that usually works for me, or the second technique that usually works for me, is to use something that has a broader tip than like a pencil point or a pen. So for example, today I'm going to be working with oil pastels, which have a much broader tip than a pencil. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to get a naturally more gestural line, because it is such a broad tip that I'm working with, I can't really get like a very fine detail. I can't put in like all those little pieces that you would go in and kind of like finish your artwork off with, So that right there just helps you be more gestural and more expressive without even having to think about it. So in this example, I'm actually going to be drawing a picture of this flower that I found while I was out on a bike ride today. Fun fact, I actually found out that this was a hibiscus plant. I downloaded like one of those apps on my phone that tells you like what kind of plants or insects or animals you're looking at if you like upload a picture. So I've been playing around with that a lot for the last few days. So I found out this was a hibiscus plant. So I'm going to be doing this in oil pastels, and it's just going to be super fun. Oh, that's another thing too. If you don't want this to be like your final piece, you can definitely use this as an exercise to get you warmed up. So before you start working on like, whatever sketch or painting that you want to work on that day, you want to warm up with something like this. This is a great exercise to do that. So a lot of times I'll actually do this as a warm up. So that way when I go into my actual sketch or whatever, piece of work I'm doing that day, I'm nice and loose, and I'm kind of in that mindset to just create more expressively and more freely. So this is a great exercise for that if you want to use it that way. But today, this is going to be our final piece. We're just going to make it very expressive, very lively. Again, not going to be worried about what it looks like. We're just going to have fun with this. And yeah, so let's get started. So now, as I mentioned before, I'm using oil pastels, and again, the tip of the oil pastel, it's much broader than a pen or a pencil, and so I naturally just can't make like fine small details. So I'm forced to essentially make big shapes, which is what I'm going to do now for like the petals of this flower. So I'm just going to kind of go around and just try to get the general shape of this hibiscus plant. Another good thing to do, as you can see I'm doing here, is just purposely making your lines a little kind of like wonky and crooked, because that also just adds, it's more visually exciting, and a lot more interesting than just like a plain flat straight line. Although, those lines do have their place, but again, this video is primarily talking about how to make your drawings more lively. So that's my basic general shape of this hibiscus plant. I'm just going to add some of the color here. Again, just not worried about what the final outcome is going to be. I just want to get an expressive, lively drawing down. So now what I'm going to do to kind of fill this in is I'm going to kind of go in with this more purpley color. And I'm going to take my finger, because it's an oil pastel, I can do this. I can kind of just like work it in a bit like that. And as you can see, it kind of gives it a really nice texture. Kind of almost like the flower texture, like the silky, kind of smooth petal of a flower. So I really enjoy being able to do this, because again, it's just another way to add some life to your drawings. Because again, like I mentioned in the beginning, I know I run into this a lot, where I'll sketch something, and I'll be too in my head about like, oh, this perspective is a little off, or this line's a little crooked, or whatever, and then it kind of affects me for the rest of the drawing, and then the rest of the drawing ends up being fairly flat and lifeless. So to be able to do something like this, to honestly just actually, this is another tip too, just to draw and create as if you were a child. I mean, I'm sure we all remember being kids and just like, picking up a crayon and just drawing whatever we wanted to draw, and we weren't worried about like what the final thing was going to look like. We were just concerned about having fun drawing. That's something else to kind of keep in mind. Like pretty much be in that mindset, and that'll help you achieve the liveliness and the expressiveness that you're looking for in your art. So there's my flower. Now I kind of want to add some of the green plants surrounding it, the grasses and things like that. So we're going to start working with some of the leaves that I see coming off kind of like the bottom here. And the fun thing about like doing these plants and grasses is that because there's so many of them and just going in all different kinds of directions, it's a great way to just focus on like general shapes instead of like the actual, like every individual leaf and every individual plant. So that's something that's also very beneficial of doing like this type of work. that a lot of this, like a lot of the plants in the distance, I'm not really too concerned about drawing the leaves. I'm just kind of like indicating that they're there with just a few green marks. Can't really see much of it, but I do want to add a bit of the sky just for some context. So I'm just going to come in, add some sky here. I think I'm pretty happy with this one. But yeah, but as you can see, it's a very lively, very vibrant, very kind of gestural, exciting looking and feeling drawing. Again, it's not in any way, shape, or form realistic of the picture, but it's a representation of it. And again, the purpose of this is to get used to drawing like more gesturally, more like bigger, broader strokes, to kind of get like these bigger shapes in, to really communicate that sense of like life and, you know, excitement in your work. So as I mentioned before, I do this a lot when I'm either in a bit of a rut or I trying to warm up for another drawing that I'm going to be doing, just to kind of like get my mind in that frame of thinking of just like, okay, you know, big gestural shapes, you know, don't be concerned about how it looks or a line being crooked or whatever the case may be. This is just about getting the creative juices going, getting you prepared to be okay with a mistake, be more open to making to taking bigger chances and, you know, getting like a lot of this expressive work out. So I think that's it for this week. Be sure to leave a comment, give me a thumbs up and a like, let me know what you thought of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye everybody.